I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear the thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. When people have asked me what's happened to the Morphew case, I've responded that's based on a combination of gut feel and what I've heard when I was in Colorado. The investigation and prosecution will basically resume close to the anniversary. Well, we're in that zone now, give or take a couple of weeks. Remember, Suzanne disappeared on May 10th. 2020. That was Mother's Day, although I strongly suspect she died actually the previous day. Now, because of investigative protocols, it's very easy to be left with the impression that the police are not doing anything, they've forgotten about a case, or they've got some kind of hidden agenda. And then news emerges and one realizes, while we've moved on, they haven't. Nearly 4 years after her death and about a year since her remains were found in a derelict windswept field, it was actually not so much a year, it was September 2023, so it's more like 7-8 months, but certainly not that long ago. Her body was found in a derelict windswept field. But we still haven't forgotten about this beautiful lady from Indiana, and neither have law enforcement, to their credit. Now, if you remember, it really was just blind luck from a police perspective that Suzanne's remains were found at all. By the way, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation is saying that the report, the autopsy report, it's been completed, but the Chaffee County medical examiner is only going to release it next week. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you're enjoying this analysis, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. Now, if the autopsy is released, one wonders what the results of that are going to be. Is there going to immediately be an arrest? Is there immediately going to be a statement? Is the report going to be released? Is a redacted section of the report going to be released? Are we going to learn anything from the report? What can we expect from this report? Well, first of all, I think there will be a detailed description of precisely how the remains were found, where and how much of the skeleton was recovered. We will likely also learn where the cancer port was located. So I don't know if you remember, Suzanne did have cancer. She was in remission, but she still actually had a cancer port that she was using, and she actually had an appointment, I think early that week, if it wasn't the Monday. She had a doctor's appointment, so she was really coming out of it, but that cancer port was still attached to her, and it was actually found with her remains. But the question is exactly where. Was there any kind of tape? Was there any kind of clothing? What bones were associated with this cancer port? And then also, what's the state of the bones themselves? Now, probably what has complicated the effort to examine Suzanne's remains is the combination of weather, animal and insect destruction, and trying to push aside these layers to get to what's underneath. What is the original state that these bones were in? Now, I suspect if a firearm was used, there would be classic damage to underlying bone. And so, one of the difficulties would be, for example, trying to differentiate between the sort of circular structure of a bullet passing through bone compared to, for example, the tooth the incisor of a dog, for example. So, you can imagine that may have taken quite a long time to study, to investigate, to test. Of course, dogs don't typically eat bones to the extent that they penetrate the bones, although I suppose one could argue that. I'm just saying that you can't really imagine a dog's incisor breaking through a bone, but I suppose it also depends. Could also be other predators, jackals. I think you call them coyotes in that area, so I suppose it could be that as well. But are their teeth large enough to leave a certain kind of wound or injury to bone, and would it go as deep or be as destructive? So anyway, we'll perhaps learn what the coroner said about that. It's also possible toxicology was done on Suzanne's hair, perhaps looking for evidence from a tranquilizer dart. I doubt whether any chemicals would have survived, but who knows? One of the most important aspects will be in what sort of container and what sort of clothing was Suzanne wearing when she was buried. I don't think that there's no clothing. I think there will be some kind of material, whether it's plastic, whether it's duct tape, whether it's some kind of canvas bag. There probably will be some kind of container. And this may actually be quite useful. It might help trace back to someone. If there is plastic, maybe DNA or hairs or fibers can be retrieved. Also, the clothing could indicate when death occurred. For example, if she was wearing a bathing suit and the bathing suit is found, that would indicate that is likely her time of death. And so, what we have been wondering, did something happen shortly after her last photo was taken? Now, according to CBS News, investigators were searching in the area of Moffat in Sawachi County on an investigation not related to the Morphew disappearance when her remains were recovered. So, that really was very good luck for the investigators, for the police, for Suzanne's family, at least to get some closure. But obviously it's very, very bad luck for somebody else. The attorney for Barry Morphew released a statement on behalf of his family following the discovery of Suzanne's remains that read, quote, "From what we know, Barry is as innocent as he was from day one." Now, the original story from Barry was that Suzanne is still alive and that she just ran away, didn't kind of abandoned her credit cards and abandoned her children and just ran away to make a life somewhere else. And so they're basically saying, oh, well, Suzanne being discovered dead doesn't change anything, doesn't it? The statement goes on to note, DA Stanley and law enforcement got it wrong. We hope the authorities will quickly admit the wrongful persecution of Barry, an innocent man, to treat the Morphews like the victims they are, and charge the persons responsible for Suzanne's killing. Well, the good news is I think those charges that the attorney has been asking for are perhaps likely to come quite soon now. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.